Hey everyone, we had some massive news for Starbucks stock investors and Chipotle stock investors as the CEO of Chipotle, Brian Niccol, is switching to Starbucks away from Chipotle. So what does this mean for Chipotle and Starbucks stock investors? Let's take a look at the details. Let's take a look at the history of this CEO at Chipotle and who wins in this negotiation or who wins in this transaction, this change in leadership. Is it great for Starbucks or is it better for Chipotle, right? Let's answer that and let's take a look.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so Chipotle made the announcement as well as Starbucks, but let's look at Chipotle's announcement first, saying that Brian Niccol has accepted the role as CEO of Starbucks and will be leaving the company effective August 31st. Niccol had been the Chipotle CEO since 2018. Chipotle says that the board of directors has appointed Scott Boatwright, the CEO, as the chief operating officer at interim CEO. Chipotle goes out of their way to highlight Boatwright's capabilities, saying that Scott joined in 2017 and has been instrumental in driving restaurant operations for the company's more than 120,000 employees and 3,500 restaurants. He also led the integration of new technology into restaurants, built a strong culture, and achieved industry-leading retention rates, yielding impressive results and improvements in throughput and the guest experience. So Chipotle seemingly going out of their way to highlight the capabilities and the accomplishments of Scott Boatwright, while not so much talking about Brian Niccol, trying to understate the role that the former CEO Brian Niccol had, and trying to overstate the role that Scott Boatwright had. Now, what is common between these two leaders is that Chipotle's performance had been absolutely excellent since Brian Niccol joined in 2018. You can see the company's revenue and operating income had done exceptionally well, growing from a little over $3 billion in 2015. And starting in 2018, when Brian Niccol joined, you can see revenue jumping from around $3.5–4 billion all the way up to $10.66 billion, and the operating income jumping to $1.85 billion. The results, in fact, were so good that Chipotle accelerated store development. They were previously only opening or planning to open roughly 200 new restaurants every year. They accelerated that up to 300 new restaurants per year because the operations, the per restaurant performance was so good that they accelerated. They wanted to open new restaurants. Undoubtedly, Brian Niccol did an excellent job with Chipotle, and Starbucks, this is a major win for Starbucks, attracting Brian Niccol away from Chipotle. Starbucks wasn't understating the CEO's performance, saying that while he was at the role as CEO of Chipotle, revenue nearly doubled, profits have increased sevenfold, and the stock price has increased by nearly 800% during his leadership, all while increasing wages for retail team members, expanding benefits, and strengthening the culture. I can't understate this enough in how successful Brian Niccol was at Chipotle. If I had a ranking of top CEOs, I would rank Brian Niccol among the top ranking CEOs in the US. His job at Chipotle in bringing the company back from, remember back in 2015 or 2016, it was the company's disaster E. coli outbreak when many of its customers got sick and it was trying to recover from that disaster. Well, it recovered, and it recovered stronger than ever. And the CEO had a strong role to play in that. So this is a major win for Starbucks, and I'm not surprised that on the day of the announcement, Starbucks stock price jumped by over 20%, and Chipotle's stock price fell by roughly 10%. That goes to show what the investing community thinks of Brian Niccol's leadership. That demonstrate that one price move on the day of the announcement demonstrates what the investing community thinks of Brian Niccol, and I concur with their thesis here. I concur that I think that this CEO is one of the best. And Starbucks needs it because they have been underperforming. If you look at the stock price performance over the last 10 years, and if we look at from 2019, Starbucks is where it was in 2019, $96 per share. And this is after that 20% jump today. If we don't look at that, Starbucks stock price was below $80 per share at $75 per share. It was lower than where it was in 2019. And its growth expectations, its year-over-year growth were decreasing, facing increasing competition in China, where Starbucks was losing market share meaningfully, and that's the second largest market. So the performance had not been good at all for Starbucks. It faced significant headwinds, and so they needed a big change. In fact, the former CEO, Howard Schultz, who's sometimes credited as being the founder of Starbucks, not really the founder, although he is to be given credit for the expansion of Starbucks. He came in early and really led to the development and growth to really make Starbucks what it is today. But that former CEO went on to LinkedIn to pen a letter suggesting how disappointed he was at Starbucks' performance. So this is a big win for Starbucks. They needed a change, and this was the change that they needed. They've tried several CEOs that are not named Howard Schultz, and it didn't really work well. And so going out and getting a top-tier CEO here to lead the company, to bring the brand back to its former glory, I think it's a great, great move for Starbucks. Unfortunately, it's very bad news for Chipotle stock investors. Now, speaking of the two stocks, coming into this announcement, I had told investors that I thought Chipotle stock was too expensive, and I had it rated as a hold. I had Starbucks stock rated as a buy because I felt Starbucks stock was undervalued. I felt the brand and the business was lucrative enough that the company could recover from their recent headwinds. Chipotle, I admitted, was doing an excellent job and their business was doing really well, but the stock price, according to the forward price to earnings ratio, was already incorporating all of those excellent prospects. I didn't feel there was much upside left in Chipotle. However, with Starbucks, I think there's a lot of upside. So I already had Starbucks stock rated as a buy coming into this announcement, including this announcement now with the CEO stepping in, the new CEO stepping in. I like Starbucks stock that much more, and I dislike Chipotle stock that much more. Of course, I'll have more details on this going forward, but the initial reaction is very, very good for Starbucks and not very good for Chipotle. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.